On the evening of November 8th, Xu Jian, the Chinese consul general in Osaka, Japan, posted a death threat on the social media platform X. It was directed towards Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. He stated, "For the head that comes charging, there's no choice but to chop it off without hesitation." This came after Prime Minister Takaichi's statement in Parliament that if a crisis occurred in Taiwan, it could be deemed a threat to Japan's survival, and that Japan could exercise military force to defend the country under its constitution. Xu Jian's comments were made after referencing an article from Asahi Shimbun Digital. For the first time, a Chinese diplomat openly threatened a country's leader in a terrorist-like manner, shocking the world. Although Xu quickly deleted the post, screenshots of it spread online, causing an ongoing public outcry. On November 9th, Kohei Watanabe, a member of the Fukushima Prefectural Assembly, posted the screenshot of Xu Jian's inflammatory message on X. He stated, "Xu Jian's remarks should clearly be considered the words of an unwelcome person, and he should be expelled." The Japanese government officially lodged a strong protest with China on the 9th. Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno criticized Xu's comments as extremely inappropriate and demanded that the post be deleted. In response to the threats from China, Prime Minister Takaichi firmly stated in Parliament that she would not retract her remarks from November 7th and emphasized that this policy was in line with the government's consistent stance. Her firm attitude signaled that Japan's position on the Taiwan Strait issue had become even clearer. Public reaction in Japan was intense. Many online voices expressed outrage. This is not a personal opinion, but the true stance of the Chinese government. A diplomat threatening to decapitate the Japanese prime minister is effectively a declaration of war on a sovereign nation. Regardless of political stance, such rhetoric must never be tolerated. Many demanded a formal apology from the Chinese government and called for Japan to take stern action in response. A Japanese citizen protested in front of the Chinese consulate in Osaka.
"I came here to express my anger at the Chinese consul general in Osaka for issuing the death threat against Prime Minister Takaichi. The staff inside are peeking at me through the windows and gaps in the door. Is it strange to them?"
At a routine press briefing, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson not only failed to explain Xu Jian's threatening actions, but also accused Japan of interfering in China's internal affairs. Netizens responded, "Such a rogue nation, they don't even want to pretend anymore." That even before Sanae Takaichi became Japan's first female prime minister, China had already considered her the top enemy in Japanese politics after former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Takaichi's actions after taking office deeply frightened and angered China, which is now determined to remove her by any means necessary. Xu Jian's threats are not just diplomatic issues, they are real signals of violence. Japan must pay serious attention and take strong precautions. Sanae Takaichi, age 64, grew up in Nara Prefecture in central Japan. She's considered unusual in Japanese high politics, as she does not come from a prominent political family. She has openly stated that she was deeply influenced by Margaret Thatcher, with a clear and firm anti-communist stance. Like Abe, Takaichi supports amending Japan's pacifist constitution, and is seen as one of the closest pro-Taiwan prime ministers in Japan's history. From the timeline, it's clear that Prime Minister Takaichi and the Chinese Communist Party have been in direct confrontation since her first cabinet formation. On the afternoon of October 10th, Takaichi met with Tetsuo Saito, the representative of the Komeito Party, to discuss their coalition government. After the meeting, Saito announced the coalition government between the Liberal Democratic Party and Komeito has returned to a blank slate. The parties would no longer cooperate in national elections. This marked the end of the 26-year LDP-Komeito coalition, sending shockwaves through Japan's political landscape. However, it was later revealed that just 4 days before announcing the split, Saito had met with Wu Jianghao, the Chinese ambassador to Japan. Some journalists observed that after Takaichi was elected LDP president, Wu Jianghao had personally visited Komeito's leader, Saito. After their meeting, Komeito suddenly became more hostile towards the LDP. It was evident that the pro-CCP Komeito had received clear instructions from the CCP, which could not accept Takaichi as prime minister. Ultimately, Takaichi led the LDP to form a coalition in the Osaka Inshin Party. On October 21st, she became Japan's first female prime minister. In her first direct confrontation with the CCP, Takaichi emerged victorious. Japanese media reported that after Takaichi's election, CCP leader Xi Jinping did not send a congratulatory message. Instead, it was CCP Premier Li Qiang who sent the message on the same day. Nikkei Asia noted that typically it is the Chinese president who sends messages to new foreign leaders. This time, the practice of having the premier send the message was seen as unusual. Since Xi became president in 2013, he had sent congratulatory messages on the same day of the inauguration to Japanese prime ministers, including Yoshihide Suga, Fumio Kishida, and Shigeru Ishiba between 2020 and 2024. Analyst Jin Yu believes that this shows Xi's frustration and embarrassment after Takaichi's victory, despite the CCP's efforts to interfere. On the afternoon of October 31st, Takaichi had her first official meeting with Xi Jinping. The less than 30-minute meeting was described by media as a shocking diplomatic moment due to the tough confrontation at the start. According to NHK, at the beginning of the meeting, Takaichi wasted no time in pointing out the clear differences between Japan and the CCP. She quickly raised a series of sharp issues: the sovereignty dispute over the Senkaku Islands and the East China Sea, China's restrictions on rare earth exports, the detention of Japanese citizens, actions in the South China Sea and international law, Hong Kong's freedom and rule of law, the human rights situation in Xinjiang, and even the abduction of Japanese citizens by North Korea. Her tone was calm, but her stance was firm, almost directly hitting some of Beijing's most sensitive points. Japanese diplomats described the opening as unprecedented in Sino-Japanese diplomatic history. Faced with this sudden storm, Xi Jinping appeared visibly stiff, but was unable to rebut her remarks, merely reiterating his hope that Sino-Japanese relations would return to the right track. Observers noted that the handshake before the meeting was cold, contrasting sharply with the polite smiles in previous Sino-Japanese summits, highlighting the heightened tensions and mutual wariness. Popular podcaster Mindy World News compared Takaichi's response to those of leaders like U.S. President Donald Trump and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. When meeting President Donald Trump, Takaichi appeared the most excited, even jumping up in enthusiasm. In her meeting with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, the two smiled sincerely, and Takaichi's smile was so broad that her eyes seemed to curve. When meeting with East Timor Prime Minister Taramatan Ruak kissed Takaichi's hand and embraced her. However, during her meeting with Xi Jinping, Takaichi showed only a slight smile, which appeared quite stiff. Her eyes lacked any warmth or joy. Mindy added that she could tell Takaichi tried very hard. Netizens quickly commented, "The disgust toward Xi Jinping is so obvious. It's polite that she didn't roll her eyes while shaking his hand. And you can tell she's working really hard to manage her expression. Her face is full of restraint." Analyst Jin Yu pointed out that from disrupting Takaichi's ruling coalition to the CCP not sending a congratulatory message after her victory, China has been sending clear signals of suppression, hoping she would give in under internal political pressure and thereby gain the upper hand in their first meeting. However, despite their preparations, Prime Minister Takaichi's sharpness took Xi Jinping by surprise. The brief 2-minute confrontation reflected a deep shift in Japan's diplomacy under Takaichi, shifting from cautious alignment to confronting power, from economic dependence to self-reliance. Takaichi's straightforward diplomacy wasn't an emotional outburst, but a clear strategic message. Japan will redefine its China policy based on values and principles. Takaichi, with her firm and calm demeanor, told Beijing that true dialogue begins with speaking frankly, and in her second confrontation with the CCP, she emerged victorious. But the battle wasn't over. A third confrontation soon followed. After her meeting with Xi Jinping, Takaichi posted a photo with Taiwan's APEC representative and presidential office senior advisor Lin Xingyi. She expressed her hope to deepen Japan-Taiwan cooperation. She also highlighted Lin's title as senior advisor to the Taiwan presidential office. It is believed that from the moment Takaichi took office, with visits from Trump and a summit with Xi Jinping, her core staff was assembled around the concept of Taiwan in crisis. She has an acute sense of urgency about the possibility of conflict or even war in the Taiwan Strait. Taking advantage of her meeting with Xi Jinping and Lin Xingyi, Takaichi proactively promoted Taiwan on social media, calling Taiwan a precious friend and an important partner. This ambush against Xi Jinping was a clear statement of her stance on the Taiwan Strait issue. As expected, this move was seen as a direct challenge to the CCP's bottom line, prompting strong backlash from the CCP, which accused Takaichi of sending the wrong signal to pro-independence forces in Taiwan. According to sources, Xi Jinping harbors a deep disdain for Takaichi and initially did not want to arrange a meeting. However, after seeing the extremely friendly interaction between Trump and Takaichi, Xi's attitude changed, and he actively arranged the meeting. In the meeting, Xi Jinping was continuously pressed by Prime Minister Takaichi, yet was unable to respond effectively. This highlighted the CCP's awkward position in the current international situation. While it wants to repair relations with Japan and ease the diplomatic pressure from US-China tensions, it also struggles to appear weak before domestic public opinion when dealing with a female prime minister. Ultimately, during Takaichi's interaction with Lin Xinyi, the red line was once again crossed. Xi Jinping's third confrontation with Takaichi ended in humiliation and defeat. Of course, Prime Minister Takaichi also faced pressure. According to reports, before posting on X, Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a warning, stating that this would anger Beijing significantly, potentially ending any future meetings between Takaichi and Xi Jinping. However, Takaichi believed that it was essential to show General Secretary Xi Jinping Japan's firm stance against a Taiwan Strait crisis. She insisted on posting the message in this manner. Reports suggest that Beijing's anger made it clear that Takaichi is different from past Japanese prime ministers, and she would not be easily swayed on Taiwan and diplomatic issues. Additionally, during the October 28th summit between Takaichi and Trump, there was an unusual seating arrangement. Keiichi Ichikawa, Japan's national security advisor, sat across from White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Typically, the Japanese ambassador to the U.S., Shigeo Yamada, would be the key figure in diplomatic talks with the U.S., yet Yamada was placed at the edge of the table, facing Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. According to sources from Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this seating arrangement reflected Takaichi's high regard for Ichikawa. Ichikawa, a career diplomat, had been appointed by former Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba to serve as Japan's ambassador to Indonesia. However, after strong recommendations from Takaichi's diplomatic advisor, Ichikawa was brought back to serve as National Security Advisor. Former National Security Advisor Shotaro Ikiha strongly recommended Ichikawa, saying that he can handle Taiwan-related matters. A source revealed that U.S. defense policy, particularly regarding Taiwan, is currently overseen by Elbridge Colby, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. How Colby views Taiwan will be key in addressing any potential Taiwan-related crisis. The source continued, Ichikawa was chosen to engage with Colby as an equal official, entrusted with ensuring the U.S. takes Taiwan seriously. Takaichi also made a rare decision to appoint Masanori Ono, a former Air Self-Defense Force general, as her senior assistant for national security affairs. Senior research fellow at the Cannon Institute for Global Studies, Kenji Manura, stated, appointing a military figure as a prime minister's assistant is rare. This is a direct response to Takaichi's sense of urgency about Taiwan. With this, Prime Minister Takaichi's clear stance on Taiwan has made her a thorn in the side of the CCP. Especially since this issue is what Xi Jinping considers vital to maintaining his regime. Analyst Zhen Yu stated that after Takaichi reiterated her determination to defend Taiwan in her parliamentary address, the CCP could no longer tolerate her stance and finally revealed its true nature as a threat. The remarks made by Xu Jian, the Chinese consul general in Osaka, reveal three key implications. 1. The CCP's attempt to rally its supporters and unite its malicious forces. After the Chinese Communist Party faced repeated humiliations from Japan's first female prime minister, it seems to have made the decision to strike against Takaichi, preparing for an opportunity to act violently. The public boasting of these threats is part of the CCP's deceptive tactics. If they succeed, they will claim that the real perpetrators would have never revealed their plans beforehand, misleading the public. In fact, the assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, whom Takaichi closely followed, has long been suspected to have been orchestrated behind the scenes by the CCP. Abe was a staunch advocate of Taiwan, famously stating that if Taiwan faces a crisis, Japan faces a crisis. He emphasized that Japan could not remain neutral if China used military force against Taiwan. He was one of the most prominent global supporters of Taiwan, frequently voicing his support on international stages. As the leader of Japan's largest faction in the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, he had significant influence over Japanese politics and was highly influential in shaping the defense policies of his predecessor, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. After Kishida took office, he appointed the pro-China Yoshimasa Hayashi as foreign minister, leading some to believe Japan might shift to a more moderate pro-China stance. However, after vocal appeals from Abe and others, including a major increase in defense spending from 1% to at least 2% of GDP, Japan's defense policy clearly shifted back to the Abe line. This included abandoning the stance of being strictly anti-nuclear and anti-war, as well as advocating for constitutional amendments to adjust the role of Japan's self-defense forces. The CCP has long despised Abe's government. When Abe was assassinated, while democratic countries mourned, China's online armies celebrated his death, displaying their hatred for him. This Schadenfreude demonstrated the CCP's deep resentment towards Abe. On the day of the assassination, the gunman did not flee the scene, but instead stood still, waiting to be apprehended by security. Experts believe this bizarre behavior was a well-thought-out move aimed at self-preservation. The gunman likely knew that if he disappeared, he would be silenced by the real masterminds behind the plot. Therefore, being detained by the police was the only way to ensure his life would be protected. By allowing himself to be detained by the police, the gunman ensured that the promises made to him would be kept, whether it was to protect his family, hold something over him, or secure a major exchange of interests. If the promises were not fulfilled, he could have chosen to expose the truth and reveal everything. Now, Takaichi's anti-communist stance and support for Taiwan are even stronger than Abe's, something the CCP cannot tolerate. Under this backdrop, the terrifying rhetoric coming from China is not just a threat, but a real murder plot. 2. Takaichi cannot be bought and is seen as one of the greatest threats to the CCP. The Chinese Communist Party typically follows a three-step process for dealing with highly threatening anti-communist political figures: bribery, coercion, and if those fail, eliminating them. From the current situation, it's clear that Prime Minister Takaichi, with her sense of mission, cannot be bought. Coercion and intimidation have also failed. For the CCP, the only remaining option is to deal with the Takaichi problem using their most familiar tactic. 3. The CCP will not succeed this time. Though CCP diplomats may appear ruthless, when all options are on the table, it often means that the CCP is at the end of the road. As is well known, U.S. President Donald Trump survived 3 assassination attempts, which echoes an old prophecy that many find difficult to understand today: the chosen one does not die. After Abe's assassination, Japan's awareness of the need to protect national leaders has clearly undergone a fundamental shift. Similarly, in Taiwan, after the failed assassination attempts, Vice President Annette Lu, there is now a deep understanding of how ruthless such regimes can be. Japan and Taiwan now have the capability to protect their leaders effectively. Most importantly, Abe completed his mission, and his death did not lead Japan to fall. Instead, it paved the way for a rise of a stronger, more determined anti-CCP figure in Takaichi. The chosen one, carrying a mission, will not die before fulfilling it. Justice will always triumph over evil.